Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. Look who I've found. It's been a few days. I haven't done any content since, I think, before the Villa game. I've been unwell. Went out with this guy for a few drinks afterwards, and then it all fell apart for me. And I haven't seen too much of the zeitgeist, but apparently Thomas Frank is heads on the chopping block, according to a not insignificant amount of Twitter. The incredible reactions to what has essentially been, I think, a relatively good output from the start of the season. Undefeated in the Champions League, undefeated away from home in the Premier League. Yes, the football could be better. Yes, we have some problems, and we're going to try and figure out how we solve for them. And in so doing, we either have to go down, well, we're going to solve it via tactical shifts, and we've got two people that can answer the questions there. We've also got two people that are going to have their take on what we need to do in the January transfer window. Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. Please do smash the like button, hit the subscribe if you haven't already, hit the notification bell, and drop your comments thick and fast. Let me know how your feelings are regarding the Tottenham Hotspur predicament that we are in right now. Let's find out how the boys are doing before we get straight into it. Jaco, big up to you, mate. Welcome back to the channel. How are you, buddy?
Lovely to be back after a month of stop in terms of content creator. The last thing that I did is with you, so I'm coming back to YouTube again on your live. So looking forward to it. It's going to be a very interesting conversation for sure.
Great to have you, mate. Great to have you, guys. I'll be putting the links for their Twitter handles in the chat. I'm sure you guys have already followed them if you're on Twitter. Monsters they are in the Twitter sphere. Billie, how are you, mate? Good to see you. How are you? How'd you recover on Monday morning? You okay?
Mate, I'll tell you what, that was a good night, wasn't it? We ended up chatting conspiracy theories deep into the night, as all good nights should. Yeah, it's a good one. Great to be finally on with Jaco as well. Me and Jaco have been speaking for a number of years, but this is my first time doing a show with him, so buzzing. But yeah, certainly that night was certainly better than the game, put it that way.
Yeah. Listen, whether we start at Villa or should we start, let's just start with Villa because it's the Premier League. And of course, we then played a couple of nights later. We did the last night game away in Monaco. Lads, it wasn't pretty. Both games were very ugly, I think, from Tottenham's perspective. Didn't get anything out of the Villa game. Billie, I'll start with you, mate. Was it a game that, to your mind, Tottenham Hotspur could have and should have done a lot better with? Or do you sort of lean into the Thomas Frank sort of motif, which is they're a top team and it could have gone either way, so it really wasn't that bad. It's just on the day they happened to get the points, but it could have gone either way.
Yeah, I mean they are definitely a decent team. I think they're unbeaten in 8 since before we played them. They started really poorly, but we know last season, and the season before, they've had 2 really good seasons under Emery. I think Emery is a really, really good coach. I think he's a really good tactician. He's quite kind of similar to Frank in many ways because they're very they can be pragmatic and tactical and really intelligent guys. So it's always going to be a battle of the tactics. I don't think we necessarily lost the battle of the tactics. I don't think it was like a game where Villa were all over us and ended up with a win. I think it was a really close game. I think the disappointing thing for me was I think people kind of feel like we're due a really good performance at home, which we haven't had for a while. Probably going back to the Burnley game, I would suggest, was like the last time we put a really good performance in at home. The result, and Aston Villa, decent team. I'm not too, it could have gone either way, as you said before, but I think fans now are overdue a good performance at home, and that's the biggest concern for me. We didn't look fluid at all. I didn't think Villa looked particularly good either, to be honest with you. I don't think it was like one of those games where I thought, last night we got more. We had less persuasion on the game than we did in the Villa game. I thought Monaco were much better than Villa were, for example, and we drew that one. So you never know of these things, but I just think fans are due a good performance at home.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. To be honest, I think I said this to you before we the drink started flowing, Billie. I think I said I'm going to be putting my ticket up on the exchange for a while because I just can't really justify from where I lived. It's an effort, and I don't really, apart from the Burnley game, I don't really remember the last time that I really enjoyed watching us play at home. And it feels like that it's a bit of a the sort of stadium isn't a fortress. It's nothing like a fortress, and I can't put my finger on why that is. But it certainly needs to improve, Jaco.
We've lost almost a quarter of the games there, haven't we? Pretty much, statistically, I think, since we moved in there.
We've lost what?
We've lost almost a quarter of the game. It's like 40 games there we've lost since we moved in, haven't we, or something like that. I can't remember the exact stat, but there were loads of stats during the Villa after the Villa game. It's a really much poorer record than we would have anticipated, anyway.
Yeah, 100%. Jaco, what do you think about the Villa game, mate? And what's your take on again the stadium not being the fortress that it was supposed to be?
Obviously, I watch games by TV, so of course the atmosphere will be felt, but it's not the same as being there. But it's surely something a little bit weird sometimes. It's like sometimes I have a weird feeling about our home games, and as soon as things doesn't start to get as smoothly as we like, it's all going to the team also. Even the team confidence goes a lot lower, and you can see that they are following a little bit the atmosphere there is around the stadium. But in the Villa game, I had very few problems. In the end, it was a very even game, as Billie said, with two teams that have qualities. Aston Villa didn't start great, but the quality is there, and last season they showed it. And even against us, I don't feel like they created enough chances to win the game. I feel like they had enough quality to take out the goals out of half chances, because the first goal by Morgan Rogers is a wonderful strike and something that you see rarely. The second goal, I don't even know how to describe that goal, is a half volley and the control of 2 meters. Then the ball goes down. Buendia score with the left foot. Things happen in that case, and things can happen again in terms of conceding 2 goals from outside of the box. So I wasn't really concerned about that. The concerned part is that about the quality in general that we showed offensively, because I felt like against Aston Villa we had few good chances. We were in the final third a little bit more than for sure against Monaco, but the lack of final third quality and the lack of quality in general punished us there, because I feel like the tactical game was very even, and that is a game that was decided by individuals, in my opinion.
Just on that, right? So I guess the meltdown that I started to see briefly as I was walking up to meet Billie, I looking on Twitter and seeing people were basically blaming Vicario for his positioning. Not for the first time this season, people have been calling out Vicario, saying his great instinct keeper, but lots to question about the rest of his game. You mentioned there sort of 2 very odd sort of shots.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not a goalkeeping coach, so I'm not entirely sure where a goalkeeper's supposed to be standing for those sorts of things. But if people were saying Vicario out on Sunday night, last night he puts in one of the top performances I think he's ever played, he's ever put in whilst wearing the 2 gloves at Tottenham for sure. Is Vicario a problem for you, Jaco, in any way?
No, it can be a problem in certain ways, in certain times, especially the only thing that I felt like Vicario can be a problem is with his feet, like in terms of distribution. Sometimes he applies a little bit too much pressure on our defender. Sometimes he applies a little bit too much pressure on the midfielders, because he doesn't have a very clean strike of the ball. So that is a little bit the limit of Vicario. But other than that, I don't feel like in 2 years of Vicario we can really complain about much in terms of between the sticks. Like yesterday, it was the best goalkeeper performance that I've seen, at least in the last 5 years, and I'm quite positive about that. And Vicario is someone that can replicate again that game. He's someone that have that in his locker. It's not something that came out of nothing. We saw Vicario making insane saves. So if we want to improve on Vicario in the future, let's do it. But it's not going to be easy as people say. It's not going to be as easy as people say. And I don't feel like Kinsky is an upgrade on Vicario. He's a different profile, but I don't feel like he's an upgrade on Vicario.
What about yourself, Billie? Are you someone that leans into the? I mean, Vicario can frustrate. He certainly can frustrate me. Again, for all the reasons that Jaco just outlaid. I think that some of the kind of the box kicking from the goal kicks can be just weird, and it just brings more pressure. But I've always said I think the less time he has to think about things, the better he is. A lot of those saves last night were instinct saves, and I don't think there's that many better in the game or in the Premier League when the goalkeepers have that little time to react. He seems to be able to get a paw to it every time.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you guys, really. I do get frustrated with him, but it would be quite far down on my list of priorities if we're looking at signing someone in January or summer, as I'm sure we'll talk about in a bit later on. I think he's an average to good goal. No, average is harsh. I think he's a good goalkeeper. He's not an elite goalkeeper. He's a very good goalkeeper. I think the question for me is, if we were going to replace him, who would we look to replace him with? There's not loads of keepers I can imagine looking around Europe and thinking, "Oh, he's the guy we've got to go and sign." Beyond the names of like Allison and people like that are obviously unattainable. I don't see a goalkeepers around the world watching. Let's go and get him tomorrow. Vicario last night proves, that kind of performance is fantastic. He's a brilliant shot stopper. He does have the bozo gene a little bit, let's be honest, but every single player makes mistakes, and it's obviously when a goalkeeper makes mistakes, it's often costly. But he's not someone I'd be looking to replace anytime soon. I think what I really hope is, because I think Vicario is such a confidence player, I think the frustration for me is when he kicks the ball out or makes a mistake, he then becomes really nervous, and then that transmits onto the defence and the crowd. Last night was an amazing man of the match performance. Hopefully he'll go into the games in the next game and think, right, that's who I am. I've remembered that I'm a really decent goalkeeper. Now I'm going to show it for the rest of the season.
What did you think, before we move on to other parts of the overall Monaco game, just quickly shooting ahead because we're talking about him. He did say afterwards, I think he was interviewed on Spurs Play, and his the takeaway line that I saw him say was, and I'm paraphrasing here, but something like, our base level performance has to be way, way higher. Is that something is he taking advantage of a good performance from himself to, because a lot of people say, he's always chastising, other people whenever he makes a save. His first thing is to get up and have a crack at everybody else or whatever. Because he put in a good shift, was that his opportunity to kind of throw the rest of the team under the bus, or am I reading into it too much? Is it just because he was asked, and sometimes he wouldn't be asked, but because of his performance, he was interviewed, and that was the reason why he got the chance to say what he said?
I feel like it's also that, for sure. The job of Vicario, the job of a keeper, also a lot of Italian keepers have that kind of personality that every time they try to not being harsh on he's not about throwing under the bus. He's also being harsh to our teammates. And yesterday, surely he had he could have got like that kind of narrative because he was much better than anyone else. So he was in the position to say, guys, it's time to wake up. But I don't feel like it was something about throwing the other one under the bus, because there was a situation where he was the one that the base level was too low. So I don't feel like he said like, oh, I'm playing here and you're playing here, let's come to my level. It's all about, we are so low as a level, as a team, that this can't continue. And this can't continue. The thing that we saw yesterday in terms of performance and not in terms of result is right. This should not be our base level, because if that's the base level, it's going to be a very long season for sure.
Yeah, Billie, let's turn to the game itself then last night. The actual 11 that was put out, some interesting players that were sort of shoehorned in. I mean, obviously Jed Spence wasn't injured. I think there was question marks about why he was rested. They played Archie Gray at left back. We know Romero was out, so that brought back in Danzo. People were speculating as to whether it was going to be Van der Ven at left back and Archie Gray was playing in the 6 and Polini was going to be centre back. It was no one really was sure what was going on with that initial 11. For me, mate, for the first half, I thought, we had some half chances. They had some gilt-edged chances. I think that Balogun could have had a hat-trick probably in the first half. But all in all, I thought that, it wasn't a horrendous first half. The second half, though, everything just changed and the team sort of fell apart. What was your overall take on the team selection and the performance last night, Billie?
I think the team selection is an interesting one because I don't think a single Spurs fan would have predicted that team going into the game. And I do have a lot of sympathy for Frank, because it's really difficult to rotate for Champions League games, particularly when you've got 10 injuries, particularly when you lose Romero, and some of the players that we've lost. It's a really difficult thing to do. It's one of those things where you're damned if you do it, you're damned if you don't. If he plays the same team that he plays against Aston Villa, someone gets injured, someone's going to say, why isn't Frank rotating more? He's rotating more, and then the team look a bit less fluid. Say, why is he rotating so much? It's a really difficult thing to get right as a manager. So I have sympathy with him on that part. My main thoughts were, in the first half, I thought we were all right. I thought it was kind of an even game. And it was the kind of first half where I thought, right, we can go on now and win this 1-0 and then get out of there from that first half, because we did look a bit promising. I thought Odegaard had a pretty decent game in particular. And Archie Gray, who I think has been possibly underplayed a little bit this season. I think every time he's played for us, he's been good. Again, was really good. I think every time he's played for us this season, he's that good. My biggest question mark at the moment is what's going on with Pape Matar Sarr. It's like, because I think he's been an excellent player for us at the beginning of the season, and he's not making the team now. You would have think with that much rotation, then surely Sarr comes in. That's an interesting question that I think, we're going to find out an answer to. Is he fallen out of favour, or is he injured, or something like that? But then the second half I thought was abjectly terrible. I thought we were awful. Very lucky to come away with a point. But once you get there at the end of it, a point away at Monaco, same result as Man City, how much does it really matter in the grand scheme of things? But again, it's the same kind of questions after the Villa game. Is we really need to start looking a bit more fluid in attack. And I think one of the biggest things I can say about praises I can see about Thomas Frank is he's really sorted us out defensively, certainly in the Premier League. Yeah, we got a clean sheet last night, but I don't think it was a good defensive performance at all. It's lucky everything, but it goes down as another clean sheet in the way point. So football is a really strange game, and sometimes it's really hard to analyse.
Yeah, Jaco, same sort of question to you, mate. Like, I basically echo what Billie's saying there. The point is, I guess, the takeaway thing. That's the thing that matters, right? We're undefeated in 3.
Yep.
It's Thomas Frank. I think it's it's certainly his first go in Europe for a long, long time.
Yes.
And he had the sort of stones to mix it up a little bit, and we walked away with a point, but it probably wasn't anything like what we deserved to get out of the game.
Nah.
Your overall thoughts, buddy?
Like, as you said, the first half, not positive, not extremely negative. Still, guys, in my opinion, we also tend to overlook competition outside of the Premier League. Like when you play against Monaco, you think, okay, Tottenham needs to dominate Monaco because we come from the Premier League. They are struggling in Ligue 1. In reality, it's a team that last season qualified for the Champions League, and they have surely players that can hurt you, like Akliush. That was a player that we wanted in the summer, and yesterday he destroyed us. I had no words. Seriously, he was doing whatever he wanted. And so this is a little bit of context that a lot of time gives an impression of our performances much worse than they are in reality. So first half, better Monaco, we a little bit worse, but we could have scored. They could have scored. That's fine. Second half, absolutely awful. And the thing that I didn't like about the second half is that, and then maybe we will talk about the quality, the technical quality, and the expectation that we have about the style of football and everything, is the fact that I was okay to not play well. Okay, I was okay to not play very well. But I was not okay to lose every single duel in every position of the pitch constantly. Every time that we tried to press, they were cutting us open in the middle. When we were in the low block, we couldn't even defend in the low block. Like, they were all over us. And at some point, and I'm not talking bad about Pape Matar Sarr, because I also agree that he needs time to play. But when he came on the pitch, Pape Matar Sarr, there was one moment that was highlighting a little bit the confidence and the body language of the team. There was one moment where he was standing still, and someone from behind anticipated him that was 2 meters behind, keeping pressure on us, and that was not the only one, Pape Matar Sarr. That is a little bit of an example of a player that needs to get into the team, prove something in the few minutes that he have, but the body language for me was wrong. From him, from Xavi Simons, from a lot of players that came also into the pitch to try to prove something. So the second half was a mess, from substitutions, from the players that were playing tactically, individually. Like, that was, in my opinion, the worst watch that I've seen this season. I thought that we couldn't get worse than Bournemouth, but we did. Against Monaco in the second half, we did, in my opinion. Maybe I'm too harsh, I don't know, but I was really pissed off about the second half. Good points, though, good clean sheet. We're gonna take those.
So can we sort of diagnose why it was so bad then, right? Because I look at the individual performances of some of the players. We're going to come to them specifically in a minute, I guess, because there's lots of debate around players like Wilson Odobert. People saying that he isn't good enough, he's nowhere near good enough. Yeah, I thought he put in his best shift by a country mile on the left-hand side. I thought that, Kudus, for example, we know what Kudus can do. He's fantastic. I think he looks a little bit tired at the moment, though. I think he might need it. I don't know how we're going to rest him, but he definitely needs to have a break at some point. But even players like Polinia, if the biggest problem was that they had the sort of 2-10s in the half space, and they could just drift and create all that kind of room, then you would assume then that Polinia had a bad game in monitoring that threat. But I didn't think Polinia had a bad game at all. I think that Bentancur was terrible with the ball at his feet, but I actually thought he was pretty good defensively in terms of mopping up some of the challenges as far as I could remember. And so if I'm looking around that team thinking, we can come to the with the ball stuff in a minute, but when we don't have the ball, how was it that they had 22 shots and some of the ones that were off target should have been on target, and it could have been a cricket score at one point. I'm trying to figure out why it was when we play the 4 and then the 2, we were quite deep, how it was that they still seem to have so much space. Jaco, I'll come to you first, then I'll let Billie.
Then we go. Sorry, Billie. But for me, there was one thing that I've highlighted very well, like that I understood from yesterday. Like the pressing was insanely bad. When we tried the pressing, that was absolutely something too easy for Monaco to cut us through. So I feel like we thought the game with a little bit of pressing. During the game, that pressing didn't work at all. In the second half, we accepted that and we come very deep, but the game was not prepared like that. Also because on the wide areas, they had a lot of 2 against 1, where for example, Akliouche had the ball and the midfielder was cutting through behind the fullback, and that was something that was killing us, because if you watch back the game, they had at least 5 chances where the midfielder or someone else made the run behind our fullback and Akliouche was giving them the ball. So I feel like it was also tactically, we couldn't put tactically what we prepared for, because what I saw from the second half is just improvisation from the players, from everyone. There was no cohesion. As I said, the pressing went absolutely to shit, we can say, unfortunately. So we tried to get back, but even when we get back, we didn't have a clear plan. And also, in my opinion, when you lose so many physical duels in general, you're going to pay that. You're going to pay that for sure. So it's a mix of bad performances and also the tactics that we tried to implement didn't work, and we tried to improvise to get a clean sheet. That's what I was feeling watching the game.
Understood. Yeah, I agree. Billie, what about yourself, mate? I'm trying to put trying to sort of put our finger on why it is that we just got cut through like a knife through hot butter, or a hot knife through butter, rather.
Yeah, I have a bit better of a read on why we're so bad on the ball at the moment, but I'm not really 100% sure on why we're bad off it. Because, like you said, I was watching that game and I thought, Paglia's tackling all over the place here, making, flying into these tackles, winning them as usual. Bentancur, usually those two pretty solid. The personnel was not changed that much at the back. Obviously, Janso. It's a good, in terms of, if we're talking off the ball work and tackling and defending, Janso is a fine replacement for Romero. The big alert problem, which for me I have a bit better of a read on, is on the ball. There's obviously a huge difference in talent there. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that. I just wonder if, I know, we see this so much with Spurs away in Europe. Like there's some kind of mentality thing. And when we go away in Europe, we rarely play well. I'm not really sure what it is. I can think of countless other performances. I don't know if there's a mentality issue about the travelling or something like that. We have a really poor record away in Europe, generally speaking. We have a really good record at home in Europe. Yeah, as Jaco already said, much more intelligence than I can. That the press was really disjointed. I don't know, not really sure what it was, but for me, I think our main problems are on the ball. That's my big concern. But it's strange because as we said before, the biggest thing you can say about Thomas Frank is we look quite solid. Like Aston Villa, for example, weekend, a team that can really damage you. I think we limited them to probably 2 shots outside the box all game. Really, they never really threatened us. Whereas this game, I think it's the first time this season where we've properly been battered like that. And PSG had like a 10-minute spell at the end of the game, but that's the first time. That second half is the first time we've really been cut open like that. It was almost a throwback to last year.
Billie, I'll stick with you, mate. Let's talk about some of the players, because there's a lot of players in the Tottenham squad that are always on the lips of every debate right now. I mean, I'll be walking into one at 8 p.m. By the way, we're going to everyone who's watching, Spurs 5 starts at 8 o'clock. We're going straight from here over there. So please hang around. But one of the ongoing debates is about players like Wilson, Odegaard, Mathys Tel as well. Those two get put into a bucket like they're joined at the hip. If you're talking about one, you have to talk about both. I'm not really sure why, but I think we can all agree that everyone, including the club, it was obvious that Tottenham were trying to sign a left winger in the summer. They went after Savinho. It didn't happen. We're probably going to go back in and try and get somebody else in January. But, is Odegaard for you part of the problem, or is he part of the promise? Is he part of the future? Is he a player that just needs to have more time with the coaches, Cochrane and Thomas Frank, and improve gradually? Or do you think that he is someone that's always going to be a player that's never going to take us to the next level?
No, I don't. I don't think he's always going to be a player that doesn't take us to the next level. I think the problem is, in an ideal world, Odegaard would be our sort of second winger, young winger that's coming in with someone like a talent like similar to Kudus level that you can rotate with, learning from him, coming into games, coming as a sub, rotating every now and then, and that's fine. The problem is with Tottenham, because we've had a generally poor transfer window 2 years ago, and we signed Solanke, Gray, and Odegaard. And then since we haven't addressed that fact, and we lost Son, who was our premier left winger for a decade almost without replacing him. We're now on a situation where Odegaard is sort of our best left wing option, which I do think he is, by the way, at the moment. I do think he's definitely our best left wing option, and that's not a slight on him. The problem is, you need a bit more experience there that can rotate with him. I think Odegaard is a decent young winger. I really do. I think there's flashes of some brilliance in there too. I think first half he was quite good, actually. I thought he was our best player in the first half, actually. There was a really good moment where he took on a few players. He did a little sort of turn and laid it on a plate for Richalison. That was a really poor touch and finish from Richalison. If that hadn't been an Odegaard assist, everyone would be talking about how brilliant he was. Do you know what I mean? It was like that. It would have been the story of the first half for sure. So I think he's definitely showing flashes. I think the problem is with a young player, again, when you're having to play so many games and you're making mistakes and your confidence goes, I think it's quite clear that there's a confidence issue there with Odegaard. He started the last 4 games for us now, though, so hopefully within himself he's thinking, I've really nailed down this option now, left wing. But I think the problem is when your squad planning is poor and you're only relying on a young talent as your only left winger, that's a problem.
Yeah, 100%. Jaco, is it? Do you agree with Billie on that one? I want to also throw in here, because I think we were speaking about this backstage before we started. One of the I think the considerations that people seem to forget is a lot of the players that we've signed haven't had much time with each other. There's very little time together as a squad. There's been a lot of injuries that people aren't focusing on, and on top of that, when you're playing 2 games a week and you're traveling, there's no time to get on the training ground and kind of figure out the kind of iron out the creases.
Sorry, just jump in. I was in a weird. Someone was telling me this morning. I think in a weird way, the Champions League has kind of set back a little bit, hasn't it? Because Thomas Frank, he's not had a season where he's, where he's be able to come in, play 1 game a week, no European football, and be able to really implicate his ideas on the training pitch. He gets like 2 days on the training pitch a week max. Got 2 recovery days in there with 2 games. I think it's really harbored our chances of being able to get really sort of allow Thomas Frank to gel. Do you guys think that as well? I think the Champions League, it's great that we're in it, but maybe it's not the ideal timing. I'm not 100% sure that we're really ready to be in this competition at the moment.
No, even on the last thing that you said is true. It's true. You need to gel with the new manager, with his ideas, with the new players, and as Billie said, yes, it's not like it's lovely to be in the UCL. Maybe not the right time. Last season we finished 17th in the end. We might be the only team in history that finished 17th and played the UCL the season after. So yes, we are not completely ready, and it shows. It shows on Odegaard because he's something that I got a lot of stick on Twitter, a lot of hate on Twitter for saying that for me Odegaard is a very good talent. Billie said that he's a good talent, and I agree with everything that he said. He shouldn't be our first choice straight up every week. We just have Odegaard. That shouldn't be the case. But I feel like he's a little bit more than an ordinary talent, Odegaard. I feel like you have 2 or 3 things more even than Mathys Tel in terms of talent. I've watched him sometimes with the under-21. I've watched him even with Burnley. This guy have incredible agility around the pitch. He's not someone that can only play wide, because yes, we're playing him wide, but we saw, for example, in the instance when Richalison took 2 years to shoot against Monaco, he was in a central position, and his decision making was very nice because he had a very good change of direction. Man to one side, good decision to put Richalison through on goal. Richalison took 2 years to shoot. That's nothing on Odegaard. And sometimes I say, I'm someone on Twitter, I'm edgy. I love also a little bit having comments around. But a lot of people say, Odegaard has 0 goals and assists. Fine. what can he do if Richalison is like that? Like that for me is an assist. For this reason, sometimes in modern football, GA goals and assists take too much of the general narrative, because that is an assist. In my books, that is an assist. Then you can make a 1 meter pass and someone shoot from 60 meters and is an assist that. No, the Odegaard thing was a creative assist because he created that by himself with that good dribble. So it's not the first time that he showed that, because even against Aston Villa, he had good moments. Against Monaco, he had also other good moments on the wing. So I feel like in all this mess, because we shouldn't be in this case that we have only Odegaard, the positive is that Odegaard is improving. Odegaard is developing because he's forced to play certain games. So in some ways, I feel like we are doing well with Odegaard. I'm seeing him more confident, and I have a very good expectation on him. Also because the last thing that we didn't see about Odegaard is ball striking ability. That I feel like he's a very good shooter. We didn't see it yet so much, but I feel like in the last two games we saw a little bit of moments where he shifted to the right, tried to shoot. Against Monaco was deflected, and almost we scored even. So that's something that he can implement also. And if he starts to implement also that, he will look a completely different player.
So I do want to come to Xavi Simons as well, because I think the jury's out right now with Xavi. I think a lot of people are, again, questioning this one, which, again, for me, the guy's brand new to the Premier League. He's been here. He's had 8 games playing with people that he hasn't played with before. New culture, new climate, new country, new style of football, new tactics, new manager, new teammates. These things take time. The argument with Xavi Simons, people who want to defend him will say he's not getting fed the ball from behind progressively enough. He's not getting enough support from the players, from like the Polinia Bentancur pivot, which we'll talk about after this. But then on top of that, they're also saying, what else is he supposed to do? He hasn't got a 9 in front of him. So I'd like to kind of get your thoughts on Xavi Simons, guys, with regards, is this like a Florian Wirtz thing? Like, just players coming over from Germany, they're taking a bit of time to acclimate. Not all of them, but some of the bigger names coming from Germany take a little bit of time to settle in. Or is he just maybe, has he disappointed, I guess, because of other reasons other than the excuses that are being, sort of thrown in his direction by some people in the fan base? Whoever wants to go first. Billie, I'll come to you first, mate, on this one.
I don't think. I think it's way, way, way too early to make any proper judgments on Xavi Simons. He's a young player. He's a really high-profile player, but don't forget he's only 22 years old. He's a very young player. He's got a lot of expectation on him because of the transfer fee and how exciting it was. For me, I think the biggest thing, I don't think we have tactically got the best out of him yet, because I really don't think he's getting the ball enough at the moment. Like I think our build-up, and this is what I was referring to earlier, I think our biggest problem at the moment is our build-up is poor, particularly when we don't have Romero. I think Romero is so unbelievably crucial to our build-up. Probably the best line-breaking passer, defender in the world. Without him, we really have a break between our build-up. And then when you play Polinia and Bentancur, 2 midfielders, I think, build-up is not their strength. Polinia is a fantastic off-the-ball destroyer. Bentancur is a very solid player, very sort of, ball progression is not his thing. There hasn't been the fluidity between the midfield and the 10 position yet. We've not seen it all season when Xavi's been playing. So for me, it's a tactical thing at the moment. I think you just need to get him on the ball a bit more. I think he'll be fine. I think it's just way too early. I think what would be interesting to see is how he looks when Solanke's alongside him, because I think Solanke is a player that will link up a lot better with him. As you mentioned at the beginning, Sean, of the segment, that he's not played with a proper number 9 yet. So I think it's way, way too early to make any serious considerations into him. And I think, again, when he's playing alongside our better players, I think then we'll see the real Xavi Simons.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. So on me, I agree with him. He's way too early, and if someone is already giving up on Xavi, will look stupid on the long term, because he's a clear talent. He's someone that I believe in a lot, But I'm also just a little bit, because I agree with the fact that the structure and the way that we build doesn't help really a creative player in the pockets. At the same time, I have a little bit of critics for him, especially on the last two games for me. The last two games, because before that I was against Leeds. He excited me so much. He was looking lively, and I was saying, okay, I wasn't expecting this early to look this good, but it's fine. Let's keep on. Let's moving. And I feel like against Aston Villa and against Monaco, his decision-making, the way that he was treating the ball in certain ways, is not something that you expect from someone of his quality, because I'm absolutely fine if you try certain things that you can try because you are the best technical player in the team and you miss those. I'm absolutely fine with it because you need to find your rhythm. But for example, the last game, talking about Monaco, I feel like he was absolutely out of the game. Absolutely out of the game. He came on. We had a very good 4 against 3 situation. Very good 4 against 3 situation. And he turned back. That's something that, there are mistakes and mistakes. I'm fine if you want to put the ball for the runner and the ball is a little bit slightly over. You overhit the ball slightly. But what is about going back and slowing down again the situation? One other chance was... when Colomwani did a very good move that also is a player that, in my opinion, is deserved to talk about, Colomwani against Monaco. He was basically free around the box, and he gets the ball again on the side where the ball came. That is something that we all know is making you losing momentum. So from a situation where you free your number 10 outside of the box, that is something that in football is successful. If you have a quality player and he is free to shoot from outside of the box, you did your job as a team. But he came again wide. And the same thing goes against Aston Villa. He didn't have too many chances, but 1 or 2 times I had the feeling that he was around the box. He could have shoot, he could have done something. And he went for the easy pass around to Porro every time. That Porro, as always, tried to put the cross and the situation ended there. So I have a little bit of critic there because I'm fine that you are not playing at the best. I'm fine that you are making mistakes, but try to be as creative as possible. Try to be the guy that we need, because in this moment, technically, we are very bad. And if he also put very easy plays in the situation, we are not improving enough. So we need him really to step up. But I have no complaint. I feel like he will come good for sure.
Yeah, I 100% agree with everything you just said. Like, I think that he looks. It's not just him as well. I think there's a sort of a real dearth of confidence with the players at the top end of the pitch. I think Odegaard is starting to get a little bit more confidence to have a go when he gets into positions. And I agree with what you said when he was like jinking in and jinking out, trying to create some space. I look to Xavi Simons to be the guy. And if you have, I've said this for years, if you have a right winger who is capable of getting to the byline and either crossing the ball in or winning the corner kick, like Kudus can do, is fantastic. If you have someone on the left-hand side who can do the same, and both of them can be terrifying take-on players, which I think we're starting to see a little bit more from Odegaard and closing the gap in that deficit, then generally speaking, what happens is, in my experience anyway, is that fullbacks have to make the decision whether or not they can handle that player by themselves. And we've seen with Kudus that they can't, right? So two men go over. Either they'll call across the closest centre-back, or the DM, the 6, will go and try and help out the fullback against Kudus. You have situations emerging against Monaco where the same thing was happening on the left-hand side. And in that world, all that creates space in the middle. That's the ideal scenario. If only one man thinks they can handle the winger, then the winger should be able to try and get some decent outcomes. But if 2 men go across, there's space elsewhere. And the space should be where Xavi gets the ball. My only, not a criticism, it's a concern, is that I don't feel like he has the confidence yet to pull the trigger. I feel like we are all of the guys that seem to get around the edge of the box. They're all looking for somebody else to take that decision. They all want to hand it over to someone else, and that to me is a concern, because Xavi's supposed to be the guy who's supposed to be the locksmith in that role, in the absence of Decky, in the absence of Maddison. And so for me, I don't know what the priority is. I'm going to come to the transfer window in the next segment, but Billie, like, do you share that same sort of sentiment that I think Jaco and I have just laid out, that like it just feels like the players are at the top end of the pitch gun shy? And I don't know if it's because there's not a 9 up there that everyone trusts or wants to get the ball to more, and so there's a little bit more of a distribution of responsibility. But unless they're taking shots, we're not going to get much better outcomes.
Yeah, I definitely do think that's maybe evident. It was particularly evident for me in the Aston Villa game. There's a couple of times where Xavi had the ball, I noticed, in the stadium, where he should have had a shot. We know he's got excellent long shot. I wonder if it's a tactical thing from Thomas Frank, because I know there was a thing made at Brentford. It was even one of the, I think it was in one of the day in life of Thomas Frank videos where he's talking about, long shots have a really poor conversion rate, so he encourages players not to take long shots. I'm sure that was a thing when he was at Brentford. Yeah, and obviously he's all about creating chances in the box. He likes touch in the opposition box, and we saw it at Brentford last season in particular, scoring lots of goals that way. He did get a lot of goals out of his wingers and Mbeumo and Visa, so it might be something to do with that possibly. But I think the biggest thing would be a confidence thing with Xavi. I think he needs one to fly in, and then from there, hopefully, we'll see the real him. I just think, I think what we forget as fans, this for me is the biggest thing that I've learned over the last couple, looking at Twitter this season, and thinking about it all, is we're so small way into this project under Thomas Frank, and it's the same with players. It's the same with everything. It's the same with people like Odegaard and Tel. But I worry that as a fan base, we just don't have any patience whatsoever. And I include myself in that. Sometimes I get really frustrated and think, I think there's a lot of anxiety with Arsenal the way they're doing it at the moment. But I just think, we are 12 games into what is hopefully going to be a 3-5 year project. It's such a small amount of time. So it's no wonder that we're seeing some teething problems in attack. It's no wonder we're seeing some fluency issues. And the problem is it gets so exaggerated on the online spaces where people are getting so angry. You've already got people talking about Frank out and stuff like that, which is wild to me.
Yeah.
It's just so I think these things are only natural at this point in any project. If you look at, for example, take Man United projects, Amram was almost terrible for a year. He's been there for a year now, and he's only just starting to get any kind of green shoots out of Manchester United, with a couple of decent results lately. And even then, there's still huge question marks over him. These projects take so much time to really embed your ideas. So I think the things that we're seeing on the pitch it's just the way football is now. These things take a lot of time. I think Arne Slot at Liverpool was a kind of freak season, as he's even shown that this season already. Managers don't just come in and win the league straight away. There's a couple of examples of Conte and Slot you can point to, but they're anomalies rather than the rule. So I think, we've got to slow down. Sometimes as a fan base, we can criticize and analyze every game, but this sort of binary nature of do we get rid of Xavi Simons already? He's terrible. Do we need to get rid of Frank already? He's a terrible manager already. It's just, I think we need to step back and look at the bigger picture sometimes.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I think that the fan base going into meltdown mode right now is wild, but it's not entirely unexpected. I was saying this on Football Inc. earlier. When you look at when you're trying to analyze a group of people, if the only common denominator that you have with anybody in the Tottenham fan base is that you support Tottenham, and that everyone could be from anywhere in the world, they could be any age, any faith, any whatever, right? Then you're going to struggle to kind of sync with certain people. But there is an element to the fan base.
The interesting thing for me is I thought that the winning the trophy would maybe negate that fact a little bit. I think now we got the trophy thing out of the way. We can go into a project. It's a great time to go into a new project. It's not be constantly worried. It's not happened now. It's almost made it worse. If anything, like people now want another trophy immediately. I really thought after the trophy, it was a great time to take over.
Miserable.
Yeah, that's it.
So listen, obviously the next part of the show is like, what do we need in January? What are the priorities? But before we cover that, we've got to cover the last segment, I guess, is this ongoing debate about, I said earlier, people like to bucket these players into pairs. I'm not sure if it's called Benton Linear or Palanton Core or something. I'm not sure what people are calling it, like the sort of the Jolo of the Tottenham space. But Benton Core and Palinia, a lot of criticism. The fan base have made their mind up, and then they say, you know what, I don't want to see these two anymore. Someone bring me Berghvall. And then as soon as Berghvall puts in a stinkfest, now they're saying, bring me Archie Gray. Put Archie Gray in the 8. Like, what is the solution? Is Benton Core playing with Palinia as big of a problem as some of the fan base is making out, Jaco? Is it just a horses for courses thing? What are we doing here with this Benton Core Palinia argument?
And so I feel like the problem is deeper than that. So if you look at our option, excluding the number 10s, okay, excluding Kulusevski, Maddison, and Xavi Simons, very good technical players. Other than that, We don't have a solution. It's everyone is talking like they have a solution, like this Palhinha Bentancur thing is something completely crazy by Frank. Like he have Adam Wharton on the bench every time, and he doesn't play Adam Wharton, and he play Bentancur and Palhinha. In reality, we have Berghvall that when he comes deep is a mess. I'm sorry to say, I love Berghvall. He will improve. He will develop. When he comes deep, he's a mess. He needs to be a box-crashing 8 with ball-carrying ability going up front. When he received the ball deep, he's too casual with it. Yesterday, he almost cost 2 goals. Objectively, almost cost 2 goals when he comes deep. The other one is Pape Matar Sarr. Love Pape. Nowhere near the technical level that we need to completely change this Bentancur Palhinha pivot that is the devil, okay? The only one that, even myself, I might be deluded, okay? The only one that I think that can work is Archie Gray. I might be deluded because we don't have enough examples of that. But I'm seeing Archie Gray as a player, how he treats himself, like how he's composed on the pitch. Even against Monaco, the last part of the game where he played midfield, I love that. Very good interceptions, very good ideas on the ball, calm, collected, technical, smart. So he can be that, but he's still an 18, 19 years old guy coming from a season where he played centre-back and full-back, not exactly an established DM that will get you through this mess. So I feel like people are overdoing it because they want to fit the narrative of Brentford, of Thomas Frank still in Brentford and keeping the double pivot because he's too scared. In reality, we don't have options. And no one wants to address this huge elephant in the room because everyone is talking about how can you start Palhinha and Bentancur? No one giving examples, no one giving solutions. There is no solution. And talking about, later we're going to talk about January, but clearly you can understand what we need in January. Absolutely.
Well, let's talk about it right now, guys. Oh, actually, sorry, I haven't given Billie his chance yet to speak on the Bentancur Palhinha thing. Sorry. What are you saying, Billie?
I think it depends on the game. I think if it's a home game or a game where we're going to have a lot of possession, I would maybe push it back slightly against playing 2 quite defensively solid midfielders. And I think in those games, you can probably play one of Sarr, Archie Gray or Berghvall alongside Palhinha. For me, Palhinha has to be starting every game. I think he's excellent. I think he's so important to what we do. I think Bentancur is a very solid player. I think it's a shame that he got that ACL injury because it's when you look back at some of the old videos of him in the Conte era, how good he was back then. Sadly, that is not the same player that he is anymore. It's not to say he's a bad player. He's a very solid midfielder. Will keep the ball and tidy up really well. It's just I think when we're playing and we want to be attacking heavily, having 2 of them alongside each other can negate us a little bit. I think a much more of a worrying problem at the moment is about Romero. It makes them both look, worse as well because he's one of our main ball progressors. So I think for me, it's a game-by-game basis. We're playing away against someone like Man City or PSG, put them both in for sure. We're playing at home against Aston Villa. Maybe perhaps we don't need them both. It's interesting. I think it's a game-by-game basis. I think the other thing people forget about and discredit is their experience and their age as well. I think all 3 of our other options there are very, very young players, whereas if they were, fed to the Lions in a game, for example, Berghvall had a pretty poor game, as you mentioned there. I think those 2, their base level bad game is probably a 6 out of 10 or a 7 out of 10. You don't see Bentancur put in a 2 or 3 out of 10 game of football. Same with Palhinha. Berghvall, the young players, if they have a bad game, it's a 2 out of 10, a 3 out of 10. So I think that's an important factor too. I think we sometimes forget that their experience means that their base level is much higher just because they were easily able to adapt to lots of different situations.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I personally don't rate Bentancur. I used to love Bentancur. I think you hit the nail on the head, Billie, when you said like the pre-injury version of him to the post-injury version. The version that I see these days.
It's a shame, man.
It's a massive shame. It is, yeah. I mean, off the ball, I think last season I thought he was horrendous playing in the solo 6. I think people were giving him the credit of saying, against away at Frankfurt and things. But if you watch how touch tight he was in the rest defence, I thought he was miles off it, and he would often be the reason why when we got pivoted and transitioned on, he wasn't touch tight to their danger man, and it created problems. But this season, playing alongside Palhinha, I think his defensive work off the ball has actually been very good. It's just on the ball when he does get it, I think he slows it down. I think his passing is a little bit erratic, even though he's arguably the best passer of the midfield options that we have. But I think that we need something better. But this is, I guess, where I want to take you guys now is January is around the corner. Billie, you're obviously a massive proponent of change for Tottenham. and you got one of your you got one of the outcomes sort of met. Daniel Levy's gone. The new guys have come in, or the kind of the new version of the old guys have come in. Put 100 million quid in. We've got that 90 million quid payday loan as well. There should be some money to hopefully spend in January, but again, it comes down to prioritization. And I'm sitting here looking at the squad and thinking, for me and for most people, I would have imagined that it would have been a striker that's better than Richarlison, and a left winger that's better than Odegaard and Tel, etc. And maybe after that, people were hoping that you could just go and get a left back or a left-sided centre-back cover, etc. for the defensive line. But now all of a sudden, I'm looking at this midfield and thinking, we need a new profile. We need a different profile midfielder to be able to close the gap between Polinia and the 10 and Xavi. And I don't know who that is necessarily yet, but I also don't know where that sits in the priority. But would you guys? I'll let Billie. I'll let you go first on this one. Do you? What's your priority list in terms of where should the money be spent and how many players do we need in January?
I think January. I don't think this is necessarily the window which is going to be telling us whether this new fangled Lewis family, which is probably the same as the old one with a new name, a new image, new PR drive behind them. I don't think January is going to be quite the one to say the be all and end all. Is this a new Tottenham or not? I think combined with summer, that's when we're really going to see, are they serious? I think January window, to quote our famous old director of football, he hates it. It's quite a difficult time to buy players. Steve Hitchen hated it. Even though it was only one of two opportunities he had in the world to do his job. It is quite difficult to sign players in January. I think for me, if we can just sign a really decent left winger in January, that's probably enough for me. I think with realistic expectations in January, I can't see a world where we go and sign a striker better than Richarlison and a Semenyo level winger in January. I don't think that's realistic to expect. If we can get one of those two things in January, fantastic. That'd be brilliant. If we can maybe add a little bit more depth to the defense, that'd be great as well. I can't imagine a world where we sign more than three players max in January, to be honest. And if one of them is really high quality, that's probably about enough for me. Summer, I would think then all the exact problems that you just mentioned there have got to be addressed. I don't want to be going into next season with Solanke and Richarlison as our striker options, particularly because of the fitness of Solanke. I think I rate Solanke highly, but I think he's fallen into the Tottenham trap of having no availability now. I think we're massively lacking firepower. I think, we've lost this season Kulusevski, Maddison and Son. I think I saw someone say it's 82 goal contributions between them. We've got to sign a 25, 30 goal a season striker. It's going to be really expensive to do that, but I think the biggest problem for us is we're badly lacking firepower at the moment. I think we've got some really good players, Xavi and Kudus. If we can add a left winger to that, I think that'll send us in a pretty good shape for the rest of the season. If you have those three behind a decent striker, or a Kudus level winger on the left, as well as Kudus on the right, that's going to be able to beat most teams. That kind of quality and depth will be fine, but long term, I think we really have to be looking at that striker too.
So for you, just quickly, so the left winger is the number one priority, even in a world where Odegaard continues to improve between now and January?
Think so, yeah. I think I'd like to sign a really quality player alongside Odegaard. Yeah, that would be my number one priority for me. I think there's a name that I've been looking forward to talking about Jaco with, because I'm a big fan. I'm sure that he is too, as a Serie A master. Jaco, what are your thoughts on Yildiz, my friend? And is there any chance of them signing him?
No, there is no chance. There is no chance. There is no chance, guys. There is no chance. I love that. I love that you are seeing a lot more in the Serie A with all the years in the group chat that I'm talking about the Serie A. Yildiz is. I use this word and they clown me on the group chat that I use the word generational. I know what word it's going to be. And I agree. I use the word generational way too much. Is generational. It's generational. If I need to say Kenan Yildiz, 19, 20 years old, yesterday was the captain, number 10 of Juventus at Bernabeu. He's a superstar, really, really a superstar. And if we get Yildiz, I might be getting a tattoo of Yildiz. This is as much as I don't believe that we can pull him. As much as Leao. As much as Leao. Leao and Yildiz.
You're obviously not more knowledgeable than me on the situation. What's like the financial level of Juventus anymore? Are they at a position where they'd be able to turn down like a 90
they
million
need to sell.
Are they still like far beyond Premier League teams? financially.
Yeah, 100%, brother. Like, people don't realize how far it is, the level of Premier League between the Serie A clubs in terms of economics. Like, we are two different worlds, third world, and then we are here. Now, seriously, is almost embarrassing for Serie A because, unfortunately, is not giving to them the opportunity to rise the level and get to the level that they can be. The only one maybe is, in the end, Juventus is one of the best. The rest is a mess, but still we can go there with money and we can get Yildiz with the money. It's about Yildiz and how many offers you have, because you have Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, and certain teams that will look for him. So it's going to be interesting. But if I needed to say about the transfer window, left winger for me is not exactly a priority. If we get one, lovely. For me now, the priority is, for me, the center midfielder. Like, for me, it's the center midfield. I know that it's tough because it's a very tough position. Someone was saying, for example, Angelo Stiller from Stuttgart, the DM that is completely different than what we have. The problem that I have with our midfield is that we have Bentancur, Berghvall, Sarr, Paligna, all carrier of the ball other than Paligna, but he's not technically excellent. The other three are carrier of the ball. They are much more comfortable when they can carry the ball and feel like they're on the ball. They are not someone that with one or two touches, they spread the ball wide. For example, I don't remember the last time that our midfield with one touch changed completely the side. Very few times. We don't have that. Angelo Stiller have that quality, and other players have that quality. But I feel like we need mainly a passer in midfield. And on top of this, if we can, even the striker, as Billie said, I'm not going to the market striker in January. That's going to be a mess. We have, and I'm going to put that, we have Colomoni, that for me, in terms of Serie A, I'm coming from the Serie A, I was very excited about that because I saw Colomoni with Juventus. The first 5 games that he played, he scored 5 times with 5 shots, and he's also someone that is very good in terms of link-up play. We saw glimpses of it against Monaco, because when he came on the pitch, we suddenly looked better offensively. We suddenly, because he replaced the Richalison that is absolutely unable to hold up the play and link up with other players. Colomani is, I would say, very good at link up the play and protecting the ball, and he's also quite agile and a good finisher. So I would stick with Colomani until the end of the season. Then in the end of the season, you will see if that was a successful loan or not, and if that was not a successful loan, you need to get another striker. But in January, I would love to see a centre midfielder that can spread the passes a little bit more, because the only two that can do it are on our defensive side: Pedro Porro and Cristian Romero. Pedro Porro is absolutely brilliant against Monaco. I don't know what he was drinking. He was drunk probably
so bad,
against Monaco. I've never seen Porro playing like that. He was horrible, and I'm the biggest fan of Porro in the world. He was horrible, and Cuti Romero is Cuti Romero. We can't play without him. That's for sure. But if we can get a different type of midfielder, also because when you don't have Romero playing, you have a solution. Because you don't find another Romero, that's for sure. You don't find another one that have these line-breaking passes as a centre-back. But you can find someone as a midfielder that can do that. So I would do that, but that's for sure what I was trying to do. The rest, or a left-back, for sure, a left-back. I'm sorry to say it, I'm done watching Spence at left-back. Billie knows it. Billie knows it in the group chat. I'm not a huge fan of Spence. I appreciate his defensive side, very good, very solid, but he's a black hole at left back. When the ball goes to him, we go back to the centre back and we go to Porro that spammed the cross to Kudus every time. Like, the only time that we played very well against Leeds, in my opinion, we played very well against Leeds. Udogie on that flank was running constantly, giving options, creating spaces. Nothing with Spence. So even the left back for me is a priority. That's it.
Yeah, listen, I've got to ask a question. So we were talking about, listen, I don't disagree with either of your sort of synopsis there. With regards to the 9, like I was sort of genuinely impressed with Kolo Muani when he came on. I thought he was pretty good holding the ball up, and I'm very happy to, hopefully he stays fit and continues his fitness, and we can see more from him. And I said a few weeks ago, I feel like he'll be a player like when Gareth Bale came back to us for the second time. It took about 2-3 months for him to get up to fitness, and then by the second half of the season, he was starting firing. There's one name though that, and again, Jaco, you're a Serie A guy. There's a name that keeps getting knocked around, and we talk about Juventus needing to sell. Yeah. I've always thought of this player as a player that has flattered to deceive a little bit in a Juventus shirt. Was very good at Fiorentina, but I was always concerned around whether he had the athleticism to do it in the Premier League. I never realised until I saw last night against Real Madrid when Juve broke away at the Bernabeu.
Yeah,
and he had a one-on-one. He had a 50-yard sprint against Militao, who isn't exactly a sluggish player, and he held him off. He was strong as hell, and it was unfortunate at the end. His shot didn't. It was a good save, but I just wonder whether or not Vlahovic is a player that you guys think would be the solution in terms of a hold-up, and of course also, I mean, he looked faster than I like. He was twice as fast as I thought he was in that particular sprint. And I was just like, wow, maybe he does have the athleticism. Maybe he is fast enough to handle the Premier League.
I feel like you got the wrong image and I watched the Serie A since I was. I see Vlahovic as since he was at Fiorentina. I was very surprised to see that against Militao. It's not something that he does very often, and that's something that I'm gonna tell it straight up. It's not something that you can expect from Vlahovic. I was saying, oh, this is Vlahovic or this is someone else. Like that's how surprised I was. For me, is a no. For me, it's a no because of a few things. When, for example, when Colomani got into Juventus, outshined Vlahovic completely. Outshined. The problem with Vlahovic, sluggish, very, very, very non-agile, you know. And that is a problem sometimes. For example, when he gets... I'm taking two example, Bremer and Isaac Hien are two centre-backs, one from Atalanta, one from Juventus, that are very physical, you know. And in the Premier League, you find very physical profiles. Those players, when Vlahovic plays against them, he does nothing because he's stronger than you, or he doesn't move from there. And he's so frustrating with the ball on this. So I feel like, and also, I don't know if you're aware of how much Vlahovic is taken at Juventus. He's by far the most paid in the Serie A, by far, like by double of Leao money. So it's something completely crazy. And for that kind of money, the quality is not there. I feel like he was a good player at Fiorentina, very good ball striker of the ball with the left foot. He's wonderful, but he's too like lack of mobility that in my opinion the Premier League would destroy it. So I understand what you saw because you saw that and you say, okay, maybe. But Vlahovic, since 7 years, I saw that one time.
Right. Okay. Cool. So, I thought he was the player that I thought he was when I saw that, and I was like, wait, what? Maybe he is the guy. But if it's just
very quickly before going, someone said Moise Kean. I would be much happier with Moise Kean, and I know that he's controversial because when he got into Everton, he was absolutely shit. But watch Moise Kean in the last 2 years, how much he improved. He is fast, he is agile, he is strong, he can shoot. He's a different profile than Vlahovic, much better in my opinion. So I feel like we should look at that also because Fiorentina is a mess, currently bottom of the league more or less. So he's a complete mess. Maybe we have a chance there.
Is that the same with Ademola Lookman as well? Like he's a player that used to be in the Premier League, but now he's really improved, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Billie. I want to just pivot quickly to change for Tottenham, mate. So you've had your, as I said before, you got your first part of the problem out the way. What is your take? I'd love to get just a quick update from you for the fans regarding change for Tottenham. Is there expectations from your team, from the board there, from the guys around protests if January is a poor window? What's the state of play within the kind of zeitgeist of C4T?
I think the general feeling is they'll have 2 windows grace just because January is quite a difficult time. Unless we go on an absolutely, an absolutely catastrophic end of form, I can't see there being much appetite for protests at the beginning of a new project, beginning of a new, in inverted commas, new ownership. Seems to be signing. If we sign as many players as we are board members at the moment, that'd be a great January window. I think there seems to be a new one every day at the moment, coming thick and fast. But I definitely think they've got a 2-window grace period, to be honest, just because January is traditionally a difficult transfer window. I think by the summer, I think, and I actually got this from something that you said, which is as we had a conversation about it. I think the thing is now with the Lewis family, because there are alternatives that we've seen and alternatives that we've made public that have said that they have ambition to pump £1 billion into the playing squad, for example, because there are alternatives to that, and they block them without a conversation, without even going to the drawing, to the to the dealing, to the dealing conversation with them. And they say no, they're not for sale. Then the fans weren't going to see a lot of ambition to match that. They keep talking about how ambitious they are, how they want to do it in the football pitch. Words are really easy. It's now time for action. So I think we'll give them 2 windows as a fan base generally. If it's the same old summer that we've been expecting that they had over the last few years, I do think the summer window was a good one, by the way. If it's the same kind of summer frustrations where we're straggling about to get our business done, it's not done early, the players that we're buying not quality, then I think fans will have serious concerns. But until then, I don't think January is a big indicator.
Oh, you hit the mute button there, Billie.
Sorry, my mic. But I do think January is a good, if they're serious, a good chance to go out and maybe show, sign a really quality player and get the fans excited. But I don't think it's a be all or end all window. So
last question for you guys, and before we round up. And by the way, guys, please do get over to at Billie_T on Twitter. I'll put the links in again, and at Jaco Cats also on Twitter. Absolute legendary show with you guys as always. I do want to get one name. If you get one big £80 million January transfer target, you've asked for a left winger, Billie. Who's the number one name that's realistic? Bearing in mind, I think that I saw today that Semenyo's let his agents know that he only wants to go to Liverpool, and I think Jaco's already said 0 chance of getting Keenan yielded. So where do we go after that?
Yildiz is my guy. I wrote off Semenyo a few weeks back just because I think the noise are really strongly towards Liverpool. I'm going to have to go again. I would recommend people to scroll back a few days on Twitter on Sean's account to have a look at the list that he put up, because I thought that was a really good list. I think a smart signing. It might not be the glamour of someone like Yildiz or Semenyo, but for me, Undiah at Everton is someone that I really like the look of. I think he'd be a great signing. I don't think it would be like the glamour of Yildiz or Semenyo, but I think it would be just as effective. I think he's a really good left winger. So that would be the one for me. If we can't get my obviously dream is Yildiz, but I think Undiah looks a really good option there. And I encourage people to go and look at Sean's list, because that's exactly the caliber of player we need to be targeting in January.
Yeah, I think another name that was on that list was Antonio Nusa as well.
Yes.
If you rate him, he was at Bruges, was going to go to Brentford, failed a medical. Tottenham were looking at him a couple of years ago, gone to Leipzig, and he's done well. Jaco, you wanted a midfielder. If we're going for a big name midfielder,
if I have 80 million and I need to be a little bit crazy, I have one name that, in my opinion, is going to change us completely. And he's playing in Galatasaray in this moment, and this Victor Osimhen. Victor Osimhen, for me, is someone that no one talks about, but this guy is not normal. That guy is not normal. Absolutely not normal. And I'm
amazed. I can't believe he's at Galatasaray. What is going on there? He's way too good for that league.
He's still there. He's still 26, He's not a
wages, isn't it? Wages, big wages.
He's going to come back to the big leagues. Now, are we in the position to get him? I don't know, but if we get him, we change like this, immediately, without anything else. If I need to do one smart signing in terms of Paratici and free signings from the Serie A, that's the complete opposite of getting 80 million on Osimhen. As a number 6, Hakan Çalhanoğlu. That's the guy that is going to be free in the summer. People don't. I don't know why they don't like on Twitter Hakan Çalhanoğlu for me, because he's 30 years old and people don't love 30 years old. But in modern football, 30 is the new 22, 23, because they are as fit as ever. And this guy, in terms of spreading out the ball and long passes in general, for me, is the best that you can get in a deep position. And he's a little bit also attainable, because after Inter, he could come to Tottenham, especially if we get again Champions League. He's going to be free, quite expensive in terms of wages, but nothing too crazy for us. So he solved a lot of problem there. And also he's a big threat from shooting from outside of the box. And all the set pieces that we are really, really strong at with Çalhanoğlu is even better, because he's one of the best. So for me, it's quite realistic. But if I need to get one, Osimhen is my dream. That's always been.
Because of that Turkish tax law, though, doesn't he earn something like 450,000, the equivalent of something like for $500,000 a week or whatever, because it's all tax free over there, something crazy, right?
It's something that we can't, but dreaming is free, and I don't know, because the other top teams in Europe might have already a striker. I'm here, a cheeky bid to Galatasaray. I'm sure that Osimhen can think about that. The only problem of Osimhen is that he's a little bit of a controversial person. Like when he gets into Napoli, then he goes to Galatasaray, then no one really wants him because of his agent, so he keeps staying at Galatasaray. He's a little bit weird in certain things, but a player that for me excites me so much. Such a raw talent, such a raw power, like those kind of instinct that you can't teach. And in the box is the most dominant that you can get with Haaland. They are similar. He's maybe the only similar in certain ways to Haaland that you can find. So much power, so much finishing abilities. So I hope that we can get him, but it's a little bit of a dream.
Sensational stuff, guys. I did ask a poll at the start of the show. Where are you at with regards to Thomas Frank? Are you Frank in, Frank out, or do you have Frank out? And there's 80% of you guys are in the Frank in section. So there might be a meltdown on Twitter, but the common sense of the Spurs Talk Show does prevail. I want to do a couple of quick super chats and we'll round off. Big up to you, Houdini. Started the super sticker train. Thank you very much indeed, Dean. I appreciate you very much indeed. Choo-choo to you. Spurs OC, big up to you, buddy. He says, good to see you back, mate. Yeah, sorry for my absence. I was just in a ditch somewhere for the last 4 days. And George, Super Cup Legends, big up to you. He says, big up, Sean. Big up to you as well, Georgie. Thank you very much indeed, guys. Jaco, Billie, absolute pleasure as always. I have put the links here for everyone. I'm sure that you all, if you are on Twitter, you follow these guys already. But there are the links if you haven't already. Guys, I want to say a massive thank you to you two for coming on. And to the rest of you, stay where you are. We're going to send you straight over to the Spurs 5, where the conversation will continue. As for now, though, appreciate you all. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always,
bye, guys. Next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Next time.